Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. Hey, good morning, Misfits. How are you? It is Wednesday, February 12th, 2020. It is a great morning. It is a rainy day here in Dallas, in the North Texas area. It's been raining quite a bit, which is good. We need it. I hope you realize that where you're at right now, that's what you need as well. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's good to see everybody here. As we're getting started this morning, go ahead and send out your three messages. The three messages to individuals that inspire you, that move you. Good morning, Ralph. Good morning, Misfits. If you're new to the call, drop an N in the chat. That would be cool. Drop an N in the chat. That lets us know that we've got some amazing new souls here, and we always like to welcome you. Say Janisha? You're going to have to say that name for me. Oh, my goodness. It's a beautiful name, and I just don't want to keep screwing it up. Good morning, everybody. Oh, I did. Janisha. Cool. Awesome. Good morning, Stacy. I thought that was a new name. I didn't see that. It brought up some memories of some great people that I know from the past. That name, Stacy Brown. So great to have you here. Welcome. If we could drop some hearts for everybody. Lando, I love that name. Good morning. If we could drop some hearts for the new folks that have joined us. What we do each morning is we send out three messages to people we love, people we think that maybe think we might have forgotten about them, people that sometimes maybe we take for granted. It's just to make space for some more love to come into us. And so and you can send out more. I'd be curious what would happen if somebody sent out messages like, I know sometimes you want to take notes and stuff, but if you sent out messages all day, all during the call, that would be awesome. It'd be interesting to see what happened, what comes back to you. So this morning's conversation is, so where do you get your focus? Let's just start right there. Where do you get your focus? I was reading my devotional this morning, a gift from RBP. Thank you for that. And so for those of you that don't know RBP, it's the amazing blonde, blonde. Dr. Freud to the lobby. It's this blonde. It's the amazing pink robe lady that's up in the corner. I don't know what's going on. I haven't had my coffee, although that's not an excuse. I'm just a little goofy this morning. Good morning, RC. How are you, brother?
Good morning. What's going on, Misfits?
RC's in the house. So where do you get your focus? Think about that. When we want to get something done, when we want to go after a task, when we set a goal, what causes us? Think about that. You become this mad scientist. Think about this. Follow me on this. You become this mad scientist every time you set a goal. Good morning, Jesse. What do you mean a mad scientist? Well, if we look at it from just a chemical standpoint, inside of the brain, there's not a single word that enters into the brain. There's not a single color that enters into the brain. There's nothing that enters into the brain that gets inside of this skull. Nothing other than vibration, electrical energy, and chemical energy. When you get excited, you create dopamine. When I start laughing, when you start laughing, when you start laughing, it changes your body, but it changes it and activates DNA and does all of this stuff because of the chemicals your brain just produced. So it's required that when you go set a new goal, you want to drink a gallon of water every day. You want to work out every day. You want to do push-ups every day. You want to walk every day. You have to become a mad scientist and create the chemical cocktail that will drive you over that hump of sameness, over that speed bump, that success bump of different. Y'all follow me on this? So in order to create this new chemical cocktail, you have to focus on it. You have to become aware of it. Every day is something new. You know why we have patterns? Is because the brain doesn't want to have to wake up every morning and go, how do we get out of bed again? Where are we? We do this for survival. See, that's the difference between being in survival and thriving. We get in survival, we do the same thing every day. We have routines. It's called habitualization. And when you set a new goal and when you desire something new, you're going to break old patterns. And what does the brain do? It looks for two things, always looks for two things, always. Will it kill me? Will this new goal kill me? Not on the outside. Follow me. Not on the outside, but on the inside, this new goal of losing weight, of getting stronger, of getting healthier, of growing your team, changes your story on the inside. So it takes tremendous focus to be able to drive your success from the outside in and the inside out. It's tough. It's not easy. It's tough. Unless you use one of Jim Rohn's favorite words, until. Why is it that we can do the day we've had enough, right? It's the day the guy who's been smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day goes in and winds up passed out on the floor with a heart attack and goes to the doctor, goes to the hospital, and he barely slips by. They say you don't need surgery, but I would suggest you quit smoking, and he puts down the cigarette. Or it's the day his granddaughter comes up and grabs his leg and says, "Papa, don't die," and he puts down the cigarettes. Why would either of those work? Why would either of those cause him to quit a habit he's been having for X number of years? Because it's the day you've had enough. Guilt is one. And see, Noah puts an important word there, guilt. Guilt causes us to take action. Brene Brown, if you've read any of her books, Brene Brown talks about guilt versus shame. Guilt versus shame. And shame causes us to do bad things to ourselves. Guilt causes us to get into action. And when you're trying to mentor somebody and you're trying to motivate somebody, when you're trying to get somebody focused, too many of us are very good at the shame game. You should be doing this. Injected value. So what makes you unfocused? I'm going to do this. I write it down. I put it in my journal. I do this. I do that. I do this. I do that. Your environment. There's 6 areas that you need to focus on. There's 6 areas that you need to address when you're looking to set any goal. And we usually work on 1 or 2. It's why I always say success is a math problem. Right? If you're going to, some of you on here have done amazing things with your weight. Amazing, incredible. Some of you started by cleaning out your pantry and giving away the Oreos and the double stuffed Oreos and the potato chips and all of the what is considered non-healthy food. How did it make it into your house? Did you intentionally buy unhealthy food? No, you bought what you liked. That's the challenge. That's how you become unfocused, is you're doing something you don't like. Bob Proctor used to say to me, do the thing that you don't want to do until you don't want to do it anymore. So you don't have to do it. Do the thing you have to do till you don't have to anymore. You'd be like, well, when do I not have to? When you decide you want to. I need a journal every day. I need to put stuff in my journal every day. I need to have my journal with me all the time. I have to. I don't have to anymore. I want to. I get to. I got to drink water. So sometimes you need to set up the environment. What gets you unfocused? Have you ever asked yourself that question? How did I lose my focus on this goal? All too often, we don't pay attention to that stuff. We don't pay attention to how did we lose focus. We just say, I'm unfocused. You realize you're no longer focused. So now what do? You got to get it back. Well, getting it back means you have to admit what? I lost my focus. Is this making sense? If it's making sense, drop an S in the chat for me. If it's making sense. My daddy said if it'll make sense, it'll make dollars. Oh my goodness, 70 people. I just looked up. We had 70 folks on the call. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing amazing. Thank you all for showing up. If there's any folks who are new on the call, drop an N in the chat so we can throw some love at you in a kind way, gently. Put some hearts your way. Because here's the thing. This is probably not like most of the calls you get on. If you're used to getting onto the calls, hey, Layla, Layla, I hope it's Layla. Jadori, God, they're such beautiful names. Lotto Huncho. Hey, Emmy, how are you? Great to have you here. It's important that I wanted to thank you for you guys showing up here, all of you. For everybody that's been here from the get-go. From the day we started back in 2018 to yesterday being your first day. Thank you so much. Essence, good to have you here. It's important that you get thanked because you're giving me the most precious thing you have, your time. I hope it brings tremendous value to you. I hope it brings you an awareness and awakening that maybe becomes a little catalyst that allows you to have more of what you want and less of what you don't. So think about that for a second. Yesterday, we did a little 1-minute exercise. I think we're going to do that again right now. And what we're going to do is for 1 minute, I just want you to ask the question, where do I get my focus? And listen quietly to see what shows up, to see what pops up when you hear that question. We're just going to sit quietly for just a minute. Hang on, let me start a timer here. Because boy, when you're listening, when you're sitting quietly, it sure seems a heck of a lot longer than a minute. So ask yourself this question right now. Where do I get my focus? When I really want to get something done. When you're in one of those extreme situations where you become this focused machine. It's like you've been able to do things you haven't been able to do in a year, in 2 years, and all of a sudden you just knock it out of the park. Because here's the thing, if you've ever done anything like that, you can do it anytime you want to. It's always inside of you. So let's just spend a moment in quiet. Your brain's going to be running. You're going to be asking the question. You're going to hear a lot of answers. Just become aware of what it's telling you. So let's go ahead and start. Where do you get that focus? Just quietly listen. So that was a minute. I got to tell you, as soon as I closed my eyes, I heard like somebody yell from like a stadium. It was actually me yelling from the stadium because the words I heard was my mom. And then I asked the next question, why do I get my focus from my mom? Y'all ready? Y'all ready for this? to make her happy. So if I ever wanted to figure out where my addiction to approval comes from, it's still from my mom, and my mom today, who's been gone 11 years, she left us. Isn't that interesting? Anybody else want to share what came up to them? You're more than welcome to type it in the chat. Where did your focus come from? What was the answers you heard? My mom. Okay. Yep. Success. Need to be the best to achieve. Yep. I'd be curious if you asked that question, Chris. Who put that thought in you? Excuse me. Where did that thought come from? Because when you were 6 months old, that probably wasn't a big driving factor for you. The need to be good enough. My environment from within. Yeah, it's interesting. So I'd ask whether now you can sit quietly and I can just be noise in the background, but I'd ask yourself that question since it just popped up and it's something you've wondered about. At what point in my life did that desire show up as a regular thing? I love it. Wow. Yeah. See, if we sat down, you know, a lot of times when we talk to our family, how many of us have ever said, "Why did you do that?" How many of us have ever had that come out of our mouth? Type a W in the chat. Yeah, but Stacy, where did your goals come from? Who said those are the goals you should have? And I know they're ours. I know we take ownership of them, but got to remember, all of these things that come to us, listen carefully. 95, 96, 97% of the things we believe were given to us. You came into this world as a genius. You had so many neural pathways that your brain was prepared for anything. It was you got DNA of your mom, DNA of your dad. You got some things passed down, some things that come from history of your family, right? Sometimes the way your accent, the way you talk, those are all things you pick up. But you could do anything when you were 3 months old. You understood math, you understood shape, you understood texture. You just couldn't express it in the language called English or Spanish or French or German. You had to learn how to communicate with the outside world, but you understood all of these things just like that. And then some preset limits were given to you. We don't do that. We don't do this. If you lived in a reasonably positive household by the time you were 17, by the time you were 18, you heard no less than 114,000. The numbers vary a little bit. 114,000 to 117,000 times the negative concept of no, can't work, won't work, you're not good enough, you're not tall enough, you're not short enough, you're not white enough, you're not dark enough, your hair's too curly, not curly. So when you say these goals, I promise you there's not a single goal that you have, there's not a single place that you get your focus from that was of your decision making. You were influenced, and it's okay. It's okay. I'm just asking you to look a little bit deeper to see how the influence got there, to see what you now own. Listen, your religion, your faith, whether you have it or don't have it, that was influenced by outside people. Oh, well, I just don't want to be that. When people talk about God, I get a little nervous. Really? And so then my question comes from, who makes you nervous? Who are you following that you need to be in that state? And you believe in God, and you're faithful, and you go like I used to do every morning at 7:30 in the morning, right? Go to early morning mass, weekday mass, and then weekend mass, sometimes on Wednesday. Go sit with my Baptist friends. Talk about a long mass. Oh my goodness. So if we have all of this focus that comes from an outside source, right? There's the primordial. There's three parts of the brain, right? The primordial, the function, and the autonomic nervous system, the gator brain. Thank goodness we don't have to worry about breathing. Otherwise, I'd sometimes just pass out. How many of you forget about eating, right? Until you get like this rumble in your tummy or you get a headache. And the body goes, hey, idiot. Hey, chucklehead. Yoo-hoo. Time to eat. You don't forget about going to the bathroom. You may not go to the bathroom, but you don't forget about going to the bathroom. Thank goodness that stuff's already in place. So where does this stuff come from? Where does this focus come from? See, if you were going to build a house, you were going to build a building, you'd want to make sure the things that's in that foundation can support it. Right? If you ever made a tree fort growing up, I grew up on a farm. For those of you that I'm blessed to know new, I grew up on a farm in Ohio. We had 200 head of cattle. I mean, it was a real working farm. It wasn't. Hold on, it wasn't two chickens. It wasn't two chickens and a cat. It was a real working farm. It wasn't dairy. We grew up in Amish country, and there were dairy cattle all over, dairy farms all over. That was a lot of work. But I say all that to say this: anybody ever build a tree fort when they were growing up? You didn't pick the tiniest little tree. You picked this big old behemoth that you could put nail boards into its trunk and climb up on it, and boards into its beams and into its limbs and secret rooms. And so this foundation that you currently have, here's the good news. You all ready for this? Here's the good news. It got you here. Listen carefully. This is going to be a tough one for some of y'all. What got you here can't get you out of here. What got you here can't get you out of here. Nothing fails like success. So everything you're about to do, every task that you're about to do that's new, that's different, that's something that you want more of, you can't use anything you've already done. You just can't. Driving to work today, you'll drive the same road, you'll drive the same car, you'll go to the same location. You may even see the same people, but if you did exactly what you did yesterday, think about it, you'd have an accident. God forbid. Nothing fails like success. You go up 2 flights of steps, you can't use what you got you up the first flight of steps. It won't get you up the second flight of steps. It is that simple. And when we become aware that we are constantly breaking our habits, when we start to put a little more effort into breaking our habits, I tell my students, dry yourself off differently every morning in the shower, whenever you take a shower. Y'all are doing an exercise from Bob Proctor, right with your non-dominant hand. All it's doing is breaking the reticular activating system. It's creating new chemical pathways. It's saying that you, the body, you are in charge of the body. The body is in charge of you. Too many of you, when you get fearful, when, quote, fear shows up, your body reacts to you. You get a knot in your stomach. You start to break out in a sweat. It's all the mind's trick to say, stop, don't do that. You're hurting yourself. You're going into trauma. You're standing in the green room, about to go on stage in front of 1,000 people, and your hands break out in a sweat. Your stomach's in a knot. If a doctor walked in and saw you and didn't know you were getting ready to publicly speak, they go, you're in a state of trauma. What happened? Were you in an accident? How come people get nervous going on stage? And I need it. I love it. I absolutely love standing in front. The more the people, the better. The more I screw up, the better. Seriously. If you've ever been in any of my audiences, Heck, I'm here. All right. That's why sometimes I got to remember, I got to look down before I stand up. Am I wearing any pants? Yeah, I'm wearing pants. So do I sneak out of the camera like this? What is it? Where do you get your focus? And for many of you, I saw you typing mom in there. That was the first name that came to my head. Was that just to get approval? Was that to make sure, was that to get more love? Was your mom the breadwinner in the house? Was your mom the goal setter in the house? Your mom may have ruled the house, may have been in charge of the stuff. Everybody may have paid, step two when mom said go, we said how high. But where does all of that come from? Ask, why was my mom the one that I needed to follow when it came to setting my goals to get my focus? Well, you'll be surprised many times when I work with students. Many times it comes down to doing whatever you could to earn your mother's love. So with that being said, I see Stacy's got a question. Stacy, I'll get to you in just a second. Normally we set up the rules. So if you got a question, for those of you that are new, go ahead and raise your hand. Stacy, I'm going to come to you here in just a second. Raise your hand and we'll just go through it that way. And we'll go from there if you got some questions. Go ahead, Stacy. Good morning.
Amazing morning, Misfits. I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much, Sean and family, for showing up. Okay, so my question is kind of silly, but even if you close your eyes for a minute or 5 minutes and you're still trying to figure out your focus and where it comes from, I mean, it seems natural, like we all should know off gate, but honestly, some of us not know.
Stacy, many of us don't know. I've been in the study of the brain for 30 years, and many people don't know. In a minute,
and like me, I'm not ashamed to say I might not exactly know where that focus comes from.
So here's what I would encourage you to do. You probably sat for a moment, for a minute. You're sitting in a car right now. The environment says your brain is. Do you have children?
Yes, Zora.
Okay. So Zora. Okay. So here's the challenge: when a mom sits into a car, into that environment, especially if you've ever had your children in the car with you, which I'm guessing is a yes, it's almost impossible for your brain to go quiet, because it is constantly on high alert of you protecting them, not only physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, but now you've got to protect them against other people. So your brain would not ever be able to shut off in a car, even sitting in a parked car. Your body won't let you do that. There's too much of a mom included in that environment. Does that make sense?
Completely.
So again, imagine if I tried to go meditate, because I'm not a guru. If I tried to go meditate at a sports event, if I tried to go to the Dallas football arena, AT&T Stadium, sit at the 50-yard mark or whatever you call it, I'm a big sports fan, and try to sit quietly, I'd be booed off. So understanding that our environment, the fact that you don't know, or you couldn't quite get clear on your focus in that minute, maybe you've asked that question many times before, but in that minute sitting in the car, it'd be almost impossible for you to do that. So I want you to not feel bad that you didn't do it, because there's enough things you already pin yourself that you feel you may not do good enough for enough of. I say that because I'm looking at this beautiful woman, this amazing hair, this incredible smile, and I'm saying all of that because the beauty that you carry with you, there's a lot of people who get jealous, and you're constantly trying to not make them feel uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah. So your focus comes from making sure other people feel good first. The hard part is that when you go to make yourself feel good, did you have brothers and sisters? Did you have?
Yes, I have 12.
Yeah. Well, so now how many of you just went, Oh, well, that's the answer. And where are you in that genealogy?
I'm the oldest.
Yeah, okay. So we're all going to go light candles for you. Anybody that goes near a church, make sure you stop and go light a candle for Stacy today.
Thank you. Much love.
You've had a very from a very early age, you've had to be the one taking care of people. All right? And there may be some arguments that exist now in your family. Maybe not, but there may be some people there may be a problem child in your brothers and sisters where you don't get along with them as good as much as you do the other ones, but it's because they were the one that probably you needed to mentor at a very young age. So I have no idea. I'm probably way off. My point is for you to sit quietly and to calm down is going to take a little bit more than a minute. And you being able to say, I'm enough. Were mom and dad always around? I get a feeling they were, but was mom and dad always around?
No.
Okay. So which role did you have to fill in for, mom or dad?
Mom, I mean, oldest child, mom was around. It just like from 15 on, I've been on my own.
Okay.
Even with the parents in the house, it's we all have different stories, Sean.
Okay. No, I get it. So here's the thing. And I hope you hear this. Where do you live, Stacy?
I live in North Carolina.
Okay. So hear this. Thank you. Thank you for being this amazing soul that shows up today. Thank you for being this mom who absolutely wants the best for their family. And know that all of the things that got you here make you unique. Some of the stuff that got you here really sucked, but what got you here makes you unique. And I love you for being here today.
Thank you. I love you too. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And Sean, I met you. Nino introduced me to you on the 1st of this year.
Aww.
And it's been an amazing paradigm shift I'm still working on, and the growth and love that I feel continually, even through the phone, the vibrations, the frequencies, the energy. I love it. I crave it. And I'm going to continue to better myself.
Oh, Stacy, thank you for being here. Y'all throw up some hearts for Stacy. Stacy, what I would encourage you, there's a couple of great books. One of the books I would recommend is What You Say When You Talk to Yourself by Dr. Shad Helmstetter.
Okay.
That's a very good book. He's got some other
what
books.
You say out. When you talk to yourself.
Yeah, and he's got some other books out. But I would start with that one. It's a little paperback. It's pretty good. And the other one is a CD. I think you can even find it on YouTube now. Somebody's copied it and put it up on YouTube. It's Dr. Wayne Dyer's Getting Into the Gap. Getting Into the Gap. And the sound of creation is what he teaches you. And every religious name includes that sound of creation. Yahweh, Buddha, Krishna. And those two things, Getting Into the Gap might be the first one, because you could do in your car, and that, because of the sound it creates, would allow you to find focus in your car, because it's the sound of all creation. So that might help you if you do spend a lot of time in your vehicle. But then What to Say When You Talk to Yourself will help you realize some of the value of the self-talk that's been wired into you at a subconscious level from a very early age. But thank you for being so courageous. Thanks for being an amazing soul. Love you, Tom.
Thank you for each and every one of you, and everyone for sending love. And thank you, Sean. I'm so appreciative and grateful.
Thank you, Stacy. Yeah. Anyone else? Michael's got his hand up. Good morning, Michael.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. How you doing, Sean?
Outstanding, brother.
Oh shit. Sorry. I had a simple question for you today. It's like kind of interesting. So like, I was just wondering if you usually like send out your thank you text. Like, you know how like we send out 3 every morning. I was
Yep.
wondering if you could send them out to the same people again. Like, I know you can, but I kind of felt weird about doing it. And I was just like, I'm sure you do that.
So ask yourself the question: who told you to feel weird about it? Listen, Michael, if you get on here every day and I tell you I love you, there's not a single cell in my body that feels weird about telling you I love you.
I agree with that.
Right. So what happens is maybe if you said it, if you're saying it too often, you were told, we don't do that. No, that's not what we do. You got to ask, where does that come from? If I'm going to have joy, if I want chocolate ice cream, if I want ice cream every day, I'm going to ask for the dang ice cream.
Yeah. Yeah, I was told, yeah, I agree with you. I found out where it came from, actually. I remember my friend was like messing with me, and that's where it did come from. So I'm going to say, like, screw that.
Well, and again, you got to look at your friend. Does your friend see you every day?
Oh, yeah. It was like my best friend. He was
I
just
know, but
messing
they
with
see
me.
you every day. So was it coming from a place of jealousy? I know we're getting into the nitpicking into the weeds, but if you started talking to other people every day, what does his subconscious say? Where's his self-worth at? All of a sudden, wait a minute, you're being deluded by talking to these people. Why would you be doing that? You got me, without saying it in a conscious word.
That's smart. All right, cool. I will send out some more texts to even people I even reached out to already today.
Oh yeah, and listen, I send it out. There's a couple of people I send it out to every day, and these are people who are wild influencers. And I send it out, and you know what? There's hardly ever a reply. But when the reply comes back, Rachel Brooks, she's a TV actress. We met on Instagram, and I love her stuff. She's this amazing young soul. She's a TV actress. She's doing a film right now. And so I'll see some of the behind the scenes stuff that she puts out on Instagram so everybody sees it. But I always send her these notes of kind of a big brother note. We've never talked, but about every fifth or sixth note that she gets, she's like, I just so appreciative of your support. Because there's a part of it, it's like, is this a stalker? What does this actually mean? What do they want from me? And she said she's going to come on the call one day. I have never asked her to be on the call again. But every now and then I'll send her a link. But I send her messages regularly without any reply. So part of it is that if you feel uncomfortable sending it, maybe they're going to read the uncomfortableness. Just be in joy. You're this amazing soul with this incredible energy. You've got an energy that sometimes gets, I don't want to say trapped, but it gets a lid put on it by some of your friends because you're the most outrageous one. I look at all of your pictures. I see you smiling greater. I see you totally engaged. And I can see where people are like, dude, calm down. And you're like, I would encourage you to say, dude, step up.
I like that.
There you go, brother.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate you.
Love you, man. Thanks, brother. Who else has got a question? Go ahead and raise your hand. We'll be happy to have a conversation. So you can see all of this happens when we're looking for a way out. Michael's conversation. I sometimes feel a little weird. Where does that come from? Came from a buddy of mine, and I bet it can go back even farther. That's the most recent vibration that reminded you of that. But all we're ever looking to do is to find a way out. And if the challenge is we have to find a way out, who are we leaving behind? I was reading yesterday. I had lunch with Rhonda and Patricia and Rhonda's mom and two amazing, energetic little souls. Oh my goodness. And one of the things is Rhonda had sent me a video, a link to a minister that I was listening for. And here's the questions. It was the first 2 minutes of the video. What are you hoping you were given? right? When we look at our focus, when we look at how do we get tuned in, turned up, fired on, and fired up, how do we? What do you hope you were given as it relates to focus, as it relates to love? What were you hoping you were given? Here's the hard part. What were you expecting to be given? See, nobody ever breaks our heart. Listen carefully. I know this is going to be a tough one. Nobody ever breaks our heart. It's the expectations we had of them that breaks our heart. Think about that. How many of you know, if you've ever been in a relationship that's gone sideways, gone south, and you had to end it, at some point you knew that. At some point you knew that. You knew that. You were hoping you changed, they changed, somebody would change, but that was just who they were. A stone is a stone. So when we get mad and sad and we cry for weeks on end, they didn't break our heart. It's the expectation we had of them broke our heart. Somebody dies, same thing. They should have been here. They went too early. They went too late. They went too soon. I didn't say goodbye. It was the expectation. I'm not saying it doesn't suck. What I am saying is it's what we expected the world to give us. What were you expecting to be given in this life? I wasn't expecting to be molested as a child. I wasn't expecting to be beaten up as a child. I wasn't expected to live this amazing, beautiful life without, geez, I feel like an oddball because I never had anything bad happen to me. What were you expecting? The word test is in testimony. What have you been giving? Listen, this is a tough one. You want to get some focus? What have you been given that you're choosing not to use? Snap. What have you been given that you're choosing not to use? Yeah, Jasmine, dang. Yeah, when I see, and she didn't say any of this. This is how my brain works. She said something that was a nugget that I turn into a question so I could use it. Dalma, how are you? She uses it. She get a statement, and we go, "Oh, that's a statement," and we write the statement down. Hello, Elaine. That's a statement. We write that down, and we write down the note. I want to write down the question that makes that a nugget. I want to write down the question that makes that the nugget. RC, did you want to share something, bro? And you're always more than welcome. You know that. Just checking. Here's this. What of the story you were given have you been choosing not to use? See, this came to me. This came to me, notes from 220, which what's today's date? 12? Oh, 210. This came to me on 210. So yesterday we talked about the story. What of the story you were given? What part of your story that you were given that you already have? The challenges, the trials, the fear, the frustration, the joys. Remember, some of the times, all of that pain was so that you could experience the law of opposites holds true. The pain that you experienced, maybe it sets you up for the joy that only you could receive. Right? There's got a pendulum will only swing equal from the center. Maybe you had so much pain because there's so right. Everybody says this, and I just want to kick them in the shin with love, but I still want to kick them in the shin. They go, "Oh, there's a place being prepared for you in heaven." I'm like, "What? Like seriously? What am I supposed to do here?" Well, I would like some of that here. Could I trade it out? I know it's probably not what you're supposed to say. What were you expecting from your story? What were you expecting from your story? Think about that. The story that you're not telling, the story that you're keeping quiet, the story maybe you don't know how to tell, the story that you're afraid to tell. What are you expecting from that story? Listen, if I got trash in my house, I'm going to take 100% of it out. I don't keep 1% of the trash around just because, well, I really like my trash. Every week I take it out. Every week I take it out. Some days the cans may not make it down to the end of the driveway. Hey, Brian, love you too. Thanks, brother. If anyone else has a question, feel free to raise your hand and chat about this for a little bit. What cannot come because you're not using that which you have been given? And what happens when you use the gifts given to you? What cannot come because you're not using that which you have been given? And what happens when you use the gifts given to you? I really sound smart when I read some of those questions, don't I? It ain't me doing it. It's the Holy Spirit, in case you wanted to know. Because there ain't no school for that. Those are all downloads. RBP, good morning.
Good morning. You're speaking my jam this morning. It's kind of funny, y'all, because I've been going through these, not with Sean. I've just been going through these on my own because I know I've been asking myself these questions for years now, and I'm finally starting to see these questions in a different way, and I'm starting to see answers where I didn't think there were answers. And I know I've known since I was 4 years old. I've had a dream put in my heart around 4 to 5 years old, and I've never been able to let go of that dream. And probably since 2014, I've really focused back in on that dream. And because of refocusing on that dream, oh, that's interesting. We're doing how do you get your focus? Just kind of put that together. Ooh, aren't I smart? Because of refocusing on that dream, I'm looking back and realizing how often I checked out. And I just allowed myself to just float and live in life. And I wasn't going back to the true meaning. I wasn't getting to the heart of the matter. And then a few things happened, and I've refocused and got into that. And I've been asking myself these questions. And now I find myself, yes, the heart of the matter. Now I find myself realizing why I've been given some of the things I've been given. If y'all can't tell, and God, you'd have to be deaf not to be able to tell probably, I've been given a very bold personality, a very, very bold, what? Really? That's new, isn't it? A very bold, courageous personality. And we didn't know. Why, Ashley, you crazy. Thank you, Leo, my little Latin dancer. I love you. And I've been learning through my prayer life and through meditation that I'm redeeming that courage and that boldness. And it's fun and it's exciting, but I'm also sitting there driving around. Like I was driving around with my mom yesterday, and I now sit, and as she's talking or doing something, I ask myself other questions, and my boldness is used instead of speaking like I used to speak, which is just basically mowing somebody down because, I think they're stupid and I'm right and they're wrong. I've redeemed that
Our
boldness.
first meeting.
I know. And now I'm over there going, why are they saying what they're saying? Where are they speaking from? And I have the boldness now to ask those kinds of questions instead of staying stuck inside myself. And it creates a whole nother pathway for me. And I'm beginning to see why some of my DNA resonates at the vibration it resonates. So regaining my focus, seeing my focus, asking where my focus comes from. Y'all all know my spirituality. Sitting talking to God about my focus and my qualities that have been God given, it changes completely how I'm able to hear others while I'm hearing something new inside myself. And it's interesting because yesterday on the ride home, or even sitting there at lunch with Sean, my mom would say a couple of things, and Sean and I would just kind of look at each other and be like, oh, look, see, there's my baby showing up for me. Oh, just wait another couple of days, I'll have my hands on that baby. Things show up differently. And it's exciting to hear it in your own head. And I think more than anything, one of the things I like the most is the more I develop and I get my focus, the more compassionate I can be to others. Because no longer is it just about what's going on inside my head. I begin to gain a respect and a compassion for those around me, even those that I love, that I expected something different from. I can now sit back and ask the questions like, I wonder what they expected. I wonder what has stumped them from their expectations in life. And I can even do it with my mom, the person that in our eyes is supposed to have it together. And, moms should act like this. Well, this is the first time my mom's ever been 74 years old. So she doesn't know what she's doing at 74. And that's okay. But going through this helps me to love other people better while I'm learning to love myself even more. And, the Bible that I read tells me to love others as I love myself. If I don't love myself very much, or I don't know how to love myself, I really don't know how to love you. But asking questions like these, seeing where my focus is my focus really on the heart of others, or is my focus on their pocketbook? Is my focus on what my agenda is, or is my focus on how can I help them become more? And it's moments like this, starting off in the morning, that I can regain this. And it makes me think about when I was in high school. I was, for whatever reason, a very exceptional basketball player. I didn't start playing basketball really till I was about, besides out in the driveway with all the guys, I didn't play basketball for legitimate real until my 7th grade year in middle school. And I had played with the guys so much that I just played like a boy. So on a girls' basketball court at 7th grade, that kind of made you look like a rock star because you weren't scared to do anything, and all the other girls were scared at the time. And I shot like a boy. I played like a boy, was super fast, jumped like a deer. I had all these crazy abilities, all these crazy talents. It's probably because I had a dirt driveway and it was unlevel, and when it would rain, I would have gaps in the road, and I had a dog who liked to chase the basketball. So I had a constant defender and constant obstacles to dribble through. And I see that paralleling with my life so much now. But here's what's crazy. I had this unbelievable shot. I averaged a lot of points in games. And my freshman year, they just went ahead and put me on varsity. And I played at that level wonderfully and had a blast. We changed coaches for my sophomore year. And she wanted to change the way I shot. She wanted me to shoot like a girl. And I don't say that's a bad thing. Girls usually shoot a set shot. They don't shoot a lot of jump shots back then. They shoot more jump shots now. And I just had a real natural jump shot. And my striving to want to be better, I just followed her. And it stunted me so bad that I never really shot the ball again, even through my senior year. I just wouldn't shoot much. Now, I would whoop your butt on defense. You couldn't get past me. You couldn't score on me. You couldn't do anything. But I was scared to shoot the ball anymore. I mean, even to the point where she taped tongue depressors on the back of my wrist, so my wrist couldn't go all the way back to shoot the ball. And she wanted me to shoot. She wanted me to shoot like this instead of all the way back. And I allowed her to do that to me because I wanted to get better. But I didn't check my source. And that worked for her. And she was a great coach in that respect. And that worked for her, but it didn't work for me. And it changed the trajectory of everything about my basketball career. I had scholarships after high school, even just on my defensive abilities, but I didn't take them because I knew I'd have to shoot the ball in college. And I just didn't do it. And it was then I start seeing my boldness and my courage start getting picked away and start getting chipped away from me. And I can look back now after having conversations like this, and I can see I didn't check my source. I didn't believe in myself. But I can also see how much of a drive I had to want to be better. And I can take those expectations of wanting to be that amazing basketball player, that amazing coach, and I can still draw from it some really wild, amazing things that can help me now. So my expectations might have been very different, but then I can start asking questions like Sean's asking, and I can go back to moments like this, and I can draw so much wisdom. But then I can also sit, and this is what I try to do the most of, is who is going through those moments right now where they might not have checked their source and their expectations are one thing and they're getting something totally different, but they're wanting so bad to get out of where they are and into something new. And you could speak that into them if you become and you show up and you check your sources and you become such a better you. And this goes back to that statement Sean said, doing less and becoming more. And it's not about the do. It's about becoming so much more, sitting back, learning from everything we've gone through, understanding that those expectations are learning moments. Those expectations, we can actually take and reclaim them, flip the script on them, and instead of it being expectations and you're let down, be expectations and go, you know what? That's a great lesson in how I can approach this next situation. Or that's a great lesson that I can be humble enough to share with somebody instead of being egocentric and going, I can't tell all that, to being able to share it with somebody and rat yourself out, so to speak, that you couldn't shoot the basketball anymore. But how many people are going to grow from that? When you see these situations and you start focusing differently on those situations, the lessons that come out of this are heart changing, mind changing, trajectory changing, and the whole world shifts in a different perspective. And you end up loving yourself more. And when you love yourself more, you can walk up to anybody and you radiate this love. It's just dripping off of you. And people look at you and smile for no reason. It's being able to soak in your moment. It's just like yesterday when Sean and I were eating lunch. Angie spoke yesterday on this call. And Angie had her hair pulled up and she had it in this really beautiful top bun. And she has this beautiful creamy skin. And because I was able to just be present and my expectations were just to grow and learn and listen. We were sitting there eating lunch yesterday, and a lady walked in, and I kid you not, I don't know if Angie's on the phone or not. Angie, are you on here? I don't think she is. I kid you not. I know she's in New York or somewhere. She ain't in Texas. And I looked up and I went, oh my gosh, Angie's here. And I looked at Sean and I was like, look. And I had to go up and talk to her. It was bizarre, crazy. But it all comes together. You can hear more, you can see more, you can feel more, you can share more, you can love more. You're open to so much more when you start asking questions like this, and you start gaining your focus. And instead of being so scattered, and trust me, I got kids. I usually have more than one. I have one of my own, but I usually have more than one running around this house, and it's crazy. And you asked Sean how lunch was, but you can still deep down get a focus that's unbelievable. And when you do, that's when, for me, this is how I'm getting out of the poor mentality that I was raised in, the financial struggles I was raised in, the worries I was raised in. And I sat and listened to my mom speak all this into existence yesterday, sitting right beside Sean, just speaking it out, not even knowing it. But because of what I'm doing and where I'm going, I can see it and change it and not pick up on it. Did you notice that, Sean? And able to.
It's because people have a story. That's the only way they've ever learned to tell the story and to justify the current status. We talk about all of the things that kept us, that shows that we overcame some stuff.
Yeah. Well, even on the ride home, so mom's 74, set in her ways, obviously. And we were sitting there talking, and I'm trying to remember exactly how it came up. She was talking about her church, and she was complaining, and she looked at me and she goes, am I griping? And I said, well, you are, Mom. She goes, well, I just need to talk. And I said, I didn't say you had to stop. I'm listening to you. And she mentioned how somebody in church hurt her. And I said, well, my gosh, what did they do? She goes, oh, it's been years and years and years ago. And I said, well, Mom, do you think we could let that go? And she goes, well, I don't know. I've been hurt. And I said, and it was a good friend of ours. And I said, well, Mom, is the relationship worth it to mend it? And this is changing her focus. At 74, y'all listen to this. This is changing her focus. And she goes, well, I just don't know. I thought it was. And I said, Mom, is there a way, if the relationship was that worth it, is there a way that maybe we could talk and rekindle that friendship and, just let her know how much you love her? Well, I don't know that I can do that. Once you hurt me, I can never get close to you again. And to watch from my point of view now and this perspective, I can kind of go, oh, there's some pathways that are shut down completely. Her focus is, if I let go of this bitterness and if I let go of this frustration, then who am I going to be? And how open and vulnerable will I become? And so focus is curious. It's very, very curious what it'll make you do. I didn't push her. She's 74. She'll get nervous and upset. So I didn't push her. I just listened to her and loved on her. And I encouraged her. I was like, why don't you visit with Sean? I don't know about that. Because she knows if she visits with Sean, she'll have to let go of some stuff. And she wasn't ready for that. But it's just a very interesting how it changes your when your focus changes, the things you can let go of. And it's like I see Monique, and I can't imagine. I can't wait to get my hands on that woman. She doesn't live far from me. I'm like, I'm going to track her down. I'm going to lay some hands on her and hug her neck and soak in every bit of woman that is in that woman, because I know, I haven't heard it yet, but I know at some point in time, the focus that she had to gain to get from where she was to where she is unbelievable. And that kind of wisdom and that kind of knowledge, I am on fire for, because every time I get it, something inside of me chips away and the real Rhonda gets exposed a little bit more. And I'm no longer scared of that. I'm no longer scared of people seeing me for who God created me to be. And I guess if you get anything off these calls, besides annoyed listening to my voice, that you would get, how can I chip away more of what's not me for me to show up? And am I scared for that to happen? Is it okay for that to happen? And what do I need to get? What else do I need for that to happen? And as you ask those questions, every time I've asked those questions, it comes to me. It just starts showing up and coming and coming. So I don't know. Focus is interesting, y'all. I hope all that made sense. It's kind of what downloaded to me as we were talking. And I know everybody's got something that they can pour in. And I'm going to encourage you, become more, because I need you to become more. You're going to make me become more. You're going to make every person in your family and your life that's around you become more. And you're going to make those strangers that you pass by become more, and they're not even going to know what happened. And that's beautiful. So thanks, Sean. I love y'all.
And there we have it from the Pink Robe Lady. I love you, Rhonda. Thank you.
Love you.
And I got to tell you, yesterday, so learning how to speak somebody's language, one of the youngsters is very cautious of who they deal with. And how many of you have ever blown the paper off a straw at somebody? That was my hello that I got from this little gem of a soul. And we never said 2 words. The whole time, we never said 2 words. And we're throwing paper footballs at each other and everything for 15, 20 minutes at lunch. And even when I went to go say goodbye, there was no words. But you know what? We had the greatest conversation because our focus was on having fun. And it was odd to see, for many people, even around us who were watching us. I have no idea. I know the adults at the table were looking at the other people at lunch, watching us, me and these 2 little girls, have fun throwing footballs and paper at each other and just laughing. So that was a huge moment for me. So I just absolutely loved that yesterday. That was awesome. I'd done that in, I told somebody, 50 years. So that was neat to see. But I say that to say this: be aware of the language somebody speaks. Sometimes we're so focused on our message, we can't hear them asking to say, hey, listen, play with me. That's all anybody ever wants who joins our business, who joins our calls, is, hey, let's have some fun. Have some fun. So that was a huge moment for me. That was a big moment for me. And yet, Anyanka? I'm not sure. I'm sure I probably said it wrong.
Hi, it's Ayanka.
Ayanka, awesome. I got it right. I love that.
Hi.
Hair. I love that.
Thank you. Good morning, Sean. I actually just had a question. So at the beginning, when I first started to join the calls, I don't know if you remember, but I had actually messaged you through Instagram, and I had told you that I had a lot of self-doubt at the time. And I've been doing a lot of personal development and stuff like that. I always get on your calls every day as I can, even when I'm at work, which I am right now. So, but I've noticed the change in my mindset, and sometimes I get these dark moments, I'd call them, when it's just a bunch of negativity in my head and still that self-doubt, but it's not as bad as it used to be. So when Rhonda was talking about her mother and how her mom is in this state, completely different from how Rhonda is. I just imagine my mom and how well, because of how my mom was when I was younger, it made me kind of be just like her. So now that I'm trying to get out of that, I see where she's at, and I would like to help her get out of it, but I don't know how.
Well, I'll share my experience, then I'll ask Rhonda to share hers. So when I was 14 and I decided to never have another bad day again because of something that was pretty much a tragedy. Nobody really died that day, but some stories really died that day. I decided to never have another bad day. I couldn't change my mom. My mom absolutely set in her ways. It took 10 years of me whenever mom would start to complain about stuff and I'd ask to be excused from the table or excused from that moment. She finally, I'll never forget, she was sitting in her office. This was down in Florida, Mulberry, Florida. One of our businesses, Steel and Polyurethane was the name of the business. And mom was sitting there and I said, and I just walked away. And she said, and I'll never forget it, she said, all right, I'll stop. Up until that moment, she never stopped her complaining, or she would always just, her favorite line was, go scratch, which meant go scratch your ass. Like, go do something useful someplace else. So she would always say that. And then I would finally say, hey, mom, listen, I'm going to go outside. I got to go out to the shop. She said, all right, I'll stop. The moment that she realized that being around me was better than her story, she made a decision to change it. I didn't ask her to change it. I didn't tell her. I just decided not to be in that state. Now, sometimes I didn't have to leave physically. Sometimes it was mentally, but it was me becoming aware. And I didn't have somebody like me teaching me this stuff. It's why I teach this. It's why I show up and be vulnerable and do my best and drag people with me under the bus like Ron and go, okay, tell your story. But it's because we realize that's what we were. It's not who we are. And the story we were given, I'm expecting it to be of value to somebody else. So that's how I changed it. Rhonda, what would you share with Alec?
That's curious because I was sitting here thinking about that. I can say it like this. You've all heard that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But the next statement that I always say afterward is pretty curious. But you can salt the oats and make them thirsty. So salting the oats and make them thirsty to me has been when I'm around mom or when I speak to mom, or since our DNA is connected, I don't even have to be around her or speak to her. As I change and step more into loving me, the one thing that beautiful little 74-year-old tiny-legged woman that I call my mama wants is to love herself and to be loved. That's all she wants. She wants to know how to love herself. And as she sees me doing it for me, to me, she calls me more often. She wants to see me more often. She wants to talk to me more often. She asks me questions more often. And she doesn't ask me personal development questions. She's just asking because the spirit inside of her is picking around, trying to figure out what you've done and can I do it? And she's looking for me to be courageous enough to loan my courage and my boldness to her because she doesn't have enough to do it on her own yet. So there was a couple of times yesterday I found myself, because the vibration around mom changed. My mom likes to sit in a lot of bitterness. That's where she's comfortable. But the vibration changed because she would say something and I would speak something else. And Sean will know because she said something about how poor we were and all this stuff. And I would go, yeah, but we're not anymore. We're not poor anymore. And Sean would kind of grin. And I said it in a soft, gentle way to lift mom up, to let her know you've done better, but also to change the vibration around because she was bringing a negative vibration. She was changing the atmosphere. But I've learned one thing, and I think if I could pass along to you is don't correct her because you're not attractive anymore. And then she starts doing the whole, you don't know me, you don't know where I've been, you don't know what I've come from. This is what my mama taught me, this is what my daddy taught me. And you start going down this lineage of how I'm gonna stay in bitterness. But as you get better, one of the things you'll do for her, and she may never tell you, is I don't care where she's at mentally, a mama always wants their baby to do better than they've done. Always. They will always want that. Even the moms that have hurt us and that have bothered us, they still want you to be better. But sometimes their fight is, as you get better and they don't, they see the gap increasing. And it makes them angry because they want better. And they'll take it out on someone safe. But for you, you can't do anything to change your mom other than you change. And every change you make resonates in your DNA into every cell you have. If your DNA changes, her DNA changes. So here, I'll leave you with one more story. The other day, I woke up and I was perfectly fine going to sleep. And I woke up that morning and my head got so filled with fluid and my ears started getting filled with fluid. And I was like, oh my gosh, what in the world could have settled on me last night? And I'm sitting there and I pray every morning before I get out of bed. And I was like, God, you're going to have to help me. Why am I sick? And my mom popped into my thought. And I thought, why am I thinking about my mom right now? I'm sick. Maybe I just want her to come take care of me. You know, I'm a 45-year-old woman. I should take care of myself. So I'm like, why am I thinking about my mom? And then I thought, you know what? Am I supposed to pray for her? And I heard yes. So I began to pray for my mom, and I began to pray healing over my mom and healing energy over my mom and sickness to be broken and left from her. And I started lifting her up and praying over her. And the way I play defense in basketball is how I pray. I'm going to kick the enemy square in his teeth and tell him to go to hell and leave us alone. So when I say I pray, y'all, I pray. So I just prayed over mom and I just kept going and kept going. Felt better, got out of bed, kept going. That evening, my mom calls just to talk, out of the blue, just to talk. And she's visiting with me and I do a lot of listening. And she goes, you know what's crazy? This morning, I woke up sick as a dog. I had this head congestion. I had all this stuff. And I thought, that is exactly why I was told to pray, because as I prayed and prayed healing over her DNA, what happened to my DNA? It went away. But it's curious that it started with me and affected her. So I tell you that story to tell you, if you want to see the change in your mom because you desire to see her have a happier, better life,
guys. I've been here for New Year.
Then the thing you have to do is keep working on yourself. And as you change yourself, she's going to be so attracted that basically you're going to salt the oats to the point where she has to come get a drink. Okay. Does that make sense? Did all that kind of come together for you, right?
Yeah, it did.
Did it help?
Yeah, there's actually a point when we were talking about expectations. I do have expectations for people and even for her. So I realized that she has broken some of my expectations that I have for her. And so that's why I just had the question. But yeah, it did.
Okay. That's awesome. Okay. I hope it sits with you and maybe throughout the rest of the day, some of this will come in and out of your thoughts. And I would encourage you to write it down because it'll probably be something I'll need and that you'll have to share with me to help me grow too.
Okay.
Will you do that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And tell me, if you will, type in the chat your Instagram so I can follow you. I'd like to stay connected.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ayanka. Leo, you had your hand up. Not sure if you're still here, brother.
Yes, sir. I'm still here.
Hey, there you go.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Misfits.
Morning, Misfits.
Oh man, Rhonda, I have to give some love to you because as I was listening to your story about your basketball career and what happened to your coach, and that's actually that happened to me in swimming when I got to college. And I had a scholarship to go to college and everything. And my coach was like, "Listen, you're too good of a breaststroker. We need you to be a backstroker because we don't have enough of you guys." And that totally flipped the script for me in my career. Thankfully, I was able to shape it to my advantage, but I remember being stifled. And that experience, now that I think about it, came in different forms with my mom. And my mom, since I was younger, I'm the youngest of three, and we're about 8 to 9 years apart. And all my siblings are out the house, and it's practically how I grew up. Was like my mom was a single parent, and my mom is very strong. I'm talking about very strong Puerto Rican woman from the Bronx, does not play. And she made sure that I was off the street, and she did that through dance. And I hated it. And she put me into dance when I was about 8 to 9 years old, and I hated it because it was not what I wanted to do. And I remember being forced to have to wake up on Saturday mornings to go to these to the dance academy. And my mom, I remember her being very aggressive. Maybe that's not the right word, the loose word, but very attentive to shaping my future. And that meant even not allowing the distractions of sports. So I wasn't able to really play basketball the way I wanted to play basketball. And the only reason why I got into swimming was because it was safer for my body, because my mom really wanted me to be a dancer. And it's funny because of her vigor and her dedication to me is, I guess, how I gravitated towards this being my career. And I've been in dance for about 25 years now. And everything that I do now is because of my mom, because she had pushed me when I was younger. However, there comes the downside of that, where I feel that I was constrained, where I feel that, because my mom is so strong, I couldn't speak up for myself. And because I valued my mom so much that if I didn't do something correctly, she was very critical. So that left me with the notion that I have to do everything to be good enough. And if I'm not good enough, then I'm not liked. And if I'm not liked, then all hell will break loose inside of me. So that left me feeling empty in a lot of different social circles, because that's what I was looking for as a teenager. Also, it led into my relationships. And, just reflecting right now, I do have my mother's strength. And sometimes I do have my mother's, I don't know, aggressiveness. However, sometimes, yes, tenacity. Thank you, Sean. But then sometimes I don't have my mom's confidence. And, it's taken me many years to develop that. So much so that I got started in network marketing when I was 19. I'm now 32, and I've had success, but I'm not where I want to be. And currently, that this community has come back into my life in the past 6 months. It's making me want to be better than I was, of course, obviously before. But I do notice when the old conversations come up about my worth and my value. And this call is so perfect because it's making me uncomfortable thinking about it, but I think that's where I need to be to gain a perspective and strength from it, and to know that it was all worth it and it all happened for its reason. And for me to gain clarity and strength from it, it'll take me having to speak about it. And I've never really spoke about it in front of anybody before, besides my girlfriend or my personal, like my inner circle. But yeah, I just wanted to, I guess what all I'm saying is that I can relate with you, Rhonda, and everyone who has probably gone through this experience with their parents. And I think right now what I'm asking for from the community, or from Rhonda and from Sean, is how would someone I do have success in my life, but it's not anywhere I mean, I do have success, but it's not where I would like it. How do we get past these old debilitating conversations that we've had from someone that is as important to us like our mom? And how do we have power through that?
So you're asking me or you're asking Sean?
The both of you. It's like Superman and Superwoman, you know? So I'll take them both. I'll take them both.
Sean, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, Leo, here's the tough question. What if the story was completely opposite?
Mm.
What if your success was the greatest it's ever been? What if the way your mom constrained you was actually your secret sauce?
Mm.
What would be right? Just flip the script. I'm not saying it's true, but telling that story you got the splinter in your paw and not letting anybody pull it out.
Mm.
All of that stuff built you. It's got you to this moment. The question is are you going to hold on to that baby blanket?
Hmm.
Or are you going to turn it into a cape? You're the strong Latino in the freaking world of dance. Now you're sexy. It wasn't sexy in 7th grade.
No, it was that.
It wasn't sexy in high school, but now it's sexy.
Yeah.
But you're not even letting all of that sex appeal show up because it's like there's at a subconscious level, at 14,000 words a minute, when you get out there and you dance the salsa and shake your hips and every other soccer mom's going, ay mío, Dios mío, ay caramba. Your essence still all ain't there. You don't have to prove anything else. You've done it.
Mm. Mm.
You've done it. You've created this success. You're 25 years in doing something you didn't want to do. But you know what? I think you really like it now.
Love it.
So what would happen if you stopped? You would never know this joy. When are you going to live the joy that you would have never known? What are you expecting from your story that you weren't given? What are you not using that you were given? Use this joy that you have right now. When you get out there and you help somebody and you watch them as an instructor, you watch them get that essence of the hip spin and the turn and the way they're on the ball of their foot, not on the flat of their foot. And you're like, you got it. Right?
Yeah.
There's nothing more joyful than when you watch a student become a teacher.
Mm.
You would have never had this. Do like a cat, lick your paws, and let's get on with it. Now, do we have a lot to talk about with the other? But I'm talking to a strong Latino guy who's being very vulnerable at this moment. Absolutely. That story is still there. I would ask you to switch it, to look at it. Just change the way you look at it. It's still all there. But the strength that your mom, the tenacity, the aggressiveness that your mom had, you now get to be aggressively in love with something you do. Where before it was just aggressive to be in it.
Mm. Mm.
You're rewiring. This is a rewiring. This is the day you've had enough. For you to publicly speak, to have this conversation, to say all of these things. Listen, my mother was Russian Jew from New York, Yonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cast iron pans and wooden spoons was our pretty much discipline.
I can relate.
Right? When you would walk into a store, into church, she'd look at you and say, you embarrass me, I'll kill you. So I'll compare my mom against anybody's mom.
I think we have the same mom, Sean. I think we have the same mom.
Stand in the doorway and be able to do two things: hit you in the back of the head and pull that hair right here before you could run through the doorway.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a black mom. Well, there could have been.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying all of this, Leo. I need you to hear what you just shared. I need you to go back and listen to the recording. and think about how every one of those have built the man that sits in front of us today. If I were to ask all of your friends, anybody who knows Leo on here right now, how would you describe him? If you know Leo, if you know him, how would you describe him? Type it in the chat. And if you've become aware of him on these calls, how would you describe him based upon how you see him right now? I'd love you to type that in the chat, because I promise you, it ain't the guy we just heard described. But if I'm trying to be, so I can play, if somebody saw me from the back, other than me being tall, if I got back into Puerto Rico for 6 months, me being on the floor, they would be aligned to dance with me. Because I'm this tall, oddball white guy who really who really acts like a Puerto Rican. Well, because I spent 7 years there.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the middle of the culture. I love it. Habichuelas and pinchos and going to the beach and Medallia. There's nothing better.
There's nothing better.
My point is that the way we see you now is not the story you just told us. That's why we're all in awe, and our jaws are dropped on the floor and our mouths are agape and all of this stuff. It's like, we knew you were strong, but we didn't know how you got your strength. So turn the story around. Because as soon as you do that, it changes everything. It makes your DNA stronger today. When you go back, instead of looking at the poor me, you know how lucky you were to have your mom? You know how lucky, do you know how embarrassed she had to be to put her boy into that, to run shotgun over him? Do you know the crap she used to get? Why do you do that to your boy? Especially if there were some Latino machismo guys around her.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing to your boy? Let him play. You know how strong she had to be?
Yep.
You know the shit she had to put up with to put you into dance school? And she knew, this is the best I could do.
You know, there's two things, Leo, that popped out to me. And first of all, you have your mom's DNA. So you have her confidence.
Thank you.
Whether you speak it or not, I'm speaking it over you. You have the confidence. And I'm going to expound on that in a minute. And the other thing is, she protected her investment. She stewarded the gift that God gave her quite well. Now, the way she stewarded it, anyone could question, but she did the best with what she had. But she protected her investment the best way she could. And because of that, because I creeped on your Instagram the other day, because of that, there's this amazing, sexy, fabulous human being that I got to watch video after video after video, and saw some pictures a 45-year-old married woman doesn't need to see on your Instagram, and was like, holy crap, this dude's legit. And you portray it. So step into it. The Leo that gets out there and just lets the music flow, and you feel it down to the very cellular level, and you just begin to move, and you don't care, and you don't look around, and you're just like, we're just dancing.
Yeah.
You already have stepped into it. So just do that throughout the day. You don't have to be, Leo the dancer, then Leo the, oh, I got to be perfect over here. You've got her confidence. She has protected her investment so well that what she did is she allowed you to become. Could some people argue and say, yeah, but she put him down this path? Yeah, well, you know what? He ain't dead in a slum somewhere because mama protected his hind end from getting that way.
Yes.
Because of what could have happened to you.
Yeah.
She protected you so well that in a sense, she put you in a bubble. And she made sure nothing came through that could steer you differently, because she knew from whatever experience in her lifetime, she knew what was on the other side. So instead of being frustrated about that at times, or whatever adjective, I don't know if that's the right adjective, when you turn that into gratitude and you look in the mirror and you see your amazing smile and you see your amazing physique and you see the heart that radiates from you, you have her confidence, you have her love, you have her heart. She's protected her investment. You are so worth protecting. Your worth is unbelievable. And she saw it before we ever saw it. And because she was strong enough and smart enough and clever enough to protect this investment, here you are in our lives, rising us up with you. So you have all that. You're flipping amazing. I looked at your IG. I totally stalked you. I totally did. I didn't stay on those pictures very long because I'm like, I got a husband. I got to move past those pictures. But you are this phenomenal man.
Thank you.
You are. And I'm so grateful that I have you in my life and in my heart. I feel so connected to you that if I were in your area anywhere, I could call you up and I would have my buddy with me in a second, man.
Yes, you can.
Just joined at the hip doing whatever. So I love the confidence that you have.
Thank you.
Just walk in it, baby.
Thank
I love you.
I love you too. I thank you. I really I resonate with your words as well as with Sean's. You know, I never looked at it that way. I always just thought that my mom she's crazy in a great way, of course, in a loving way.
Mama, we do crazy things to steward the blessings that God give us. And these children that he puts in our bodies for 9 months, and we cook and incubate and feed and take care of, and then out they come. Let me tell you right now, that's where the word mama bear comes from, because we're like, you didn't grow this thing in your body for 9 months. I did. And I will do whatever I can to protect it. And she did. And what an amazing job she did.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're fabulous.
As you are too.
Thank you, dear. I'm not going to creep on your Instagram anymore. Maybe. I don't know. It just depends.
It's okay. I creeped on yours too, by the way. Loved your picture. Thank you, guys. I love you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, brother. Brittany, good morning.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, good morning.
Oh, I didn't know if I unmuted myself. Okay, yeah. So it's crazy how I feel like we all have like lived the same life, because like all of our stories are so similar. But like back to what everyone was saying, like about their mother and about expectations and things, right? So my question was, or is that fair? Like when you do that to a child, because I was also like a child, my mom had me in like ballet, gymnastics, swim, Girl Scouts, like all these things that I didn't know if I wanted to do them, and I eventually ended up stopping them. But it's like, is it fair to set that expectation on someone so young? And if not, how do you cultivate a child without imposing your own expectations on them? And even grown people.
Well,
sorry, go ahead, Sean.
There's right and wrong. There's the basics. If we start with the basics, there's right and wrong. And we may see right and wrong different, but as a parent, their desire is to do one or two things: either help you get better or take out their life's frustration. That you'll only know that till later on. It's why we have it's why we have like child protective services when a child gets left and all of this stuff. There's a lot of other abuse that happens that doesn't get reported. So the only thing that any parent can do is inflict their life on them. How they see it, what mentorship they have, what stewardship they have, it's pretty much going to be a carbon copy. It may be a little bit darker because it gets imprinted more. It may be a little bit lighter, but the reality is nobody does by choice to harm a child. Even the people who abuse children and they get arrested and all of this stuff, You ask them, I did that's just the way we were. So it all comes down to programming. The question is has there ever been somebody around you that lets you understand your heart without trying to inject values, that will listen to you long enough to hear the pain, to hear the story, and then say, what if? So that's the same thing that happens as adults. The challenge with trainers and coaches and mentors is that they're speaking from a 3% platform to a 97%er, and they're trying to say, you should just do this. When somebody who's really concerned about you needs to find out, what can you do and what story are you not using to help you have more? Most people won't listen long enough to hear that story. So we just get the you should, and they should all over it. So that's my take on it. RBP?
So, Brittany, this is a curious question because I fought with this raising a little girl. And, you know, I had serious hopes that this sister was going to love the round ball and just want to hoop it up with me and play and have a good time. My husband was an athlete. His looks are deceiving, the small statured man, but he was a phenomenal athlete. And we just, you know, we had these hopes. We got her. We got this little girl. She is going to play some basketball. She's going to, you know, do all these amazing things. She doesn't like sports. She doesn't like sports. I'm like, what? Your DNA has been jacked up. Like, we love sports. And she's like, no, I don't really like them. So we're in theater. So the way I have had to learn to do this is I've had to let her take the lead. But as she takes the lead, I still put those values into her. And I still hold her to a level of expectation to where she'll rise up and become the woman that I know God has created her to be. So you can do this. You don't have to necessarily make her or him go on the same path you did, but you can still keep the level of rise up to your dreams. You can still keep that coming. And it, you know, this is the first time I've ever done it, so I'm sure I'm screwing up at times. But I'm still trying to let her take the lead because I know what you're saying. I don't want her to do what I did. I want her to do what she's destined to do. And the only other way that I know how to do that is I do a lot of prayer for me to have the words to guide her the way she needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to help, but it's hard for us not to inject what we want them to do. Now, in Leo's case, it's a good thing she did because I'm telling you, he wouldn't have made it to where he is now. But you can do it. You just have to, I do it through a lot of prayer and then just keeping my eye on what is it that lights their fire. Is it healthy for them? Is it safe for them? Will it grow them closer to what they're telling me their dreams are? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I don't have children, but I do a lot of work for when I do have children. But I see this character trait in myself when it comes to like my romantic partnerships and also like my friendships and just people that I meet. Like I've been told that I'm like really, really, really tough on people. Like, and I like have these really hard standards on people, and like when they don't adhere to them, I'm just like, wow, like you're like the most effed up person I've ever met. Like I don't want anything to do with you, you know? And like I'm trying to break out of that, and it doesn't even have to be something big, and it'll just rub me the wrong way, and I'm just like, discard it, you know? And it's like, okay, that's not fair, because if I want to be understood and if I want people to accept me for like who I am and let me live like in a non-judgmental way and like still forgive me and redeem me, like I have to also be able to like bring, you know what I'm saying, do that
Yeah.
to other people.
So to me, the first thing that hits my mind is, I don't know that I have the experience to walk you through it as well as Sean would on that. I wouldn't mind at all. We could try, but there's probably something inside of you that's unsettled about yourself. It was for me. There was a lot of unsettled emotions about me that I kept throwing out there, and it created in me, and you can ask Sean, I still revert back to it frequently, a harshness, and I was intolerable to other people, and if they did stupid things, they were stupid.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. That's it. Are you me?
I think we are, because to me, I just lived in a world full of stupid people, and if they just quit being stupid, everything would be fine. And I had to overcome some of my shortcomings and my injected values on people, but a lot of it was because of things that were unsettled in my heart and in my spirit. And ironically, the world got less stupid the nicer I got.
And that's crazy, because I was just having this conversation with my friend last night. She's someone who I introduced to these calls, and she was like, "Oh my God, Sean's so nice." And she was like, "It's actually very eerie and scary how nice he is." And I was like, Sean kind of reminds me of like my grandmother. Like my grandmother is literally like a walking light, And I was like, I think that people who view the world very objectively and like who are very understanding and they don't take anything personal, like those are the people who are extremely nice, because they just have this shield of deflection of things that are not important, and they don't allow it to permeate them. So they just exude kindness all the time because there's nothing unpleasant. And that's crazy that she just said that, because it's like, I would like to think myself to be like, oh, like I'm so smart, I'm intelligent, like I understand everything, like, but then there's times where I'm like, I do stuff like that, I'm like, okay, you're stupid. And I'm like, Brittany, why would you say that? Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, why are you bothered? So how did you like get to figure out what that unsettled thing within yourself was?
Well, one of the first things I did is, and this sounds really simple, I read a book that helped me a whole lot. I read a book called Personality Plus. And, there's all these personalities, all these different ways to do personalities. But I read this book called Personality Plus, and it helped me in this book, there's 4 main categories. And you can take a test and you can figure out which category you fall in. And more than likely, you're a mixture of all 3. Of all 4. And when I took the test, there's this personality called phlegmatic. And a phlegmatic is someone who just doesn't speak. They just, if you say, do you want to go to McDonald's? And they hate McDonald's, they'll go, yeah. And when I did this test, Brittany, I tested 0 in the phlegmatic, completely 0. I had no ability to just be like, yeah. Like it was, no, that's stupid. It's unhealthy. We're not going to eat there. And whoever suggested is over there going, my gosh, it was just a suggestion. But I took that personality test, and it was hilarious because I tested really high in the one that basically said, you live in a world full of stupid people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my people. And then I realized the traits and everything that went along with them. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's what's wrong with me. Oh my heavens. And then I tested high in another one called melancholy, and that's very attention to detail, and they have to have all the answers, and they have to have the blueprint and all this stuff.
Awesome.
And as I began to look at that, I started seeing people and understanding their personality and where they're speaking from and what their dominant. My goal was then can I figure out their dominant personality trait? So what does that do? Just asking myself that question, that lends itself to me putting my story kind of quiet myself and hear them. And when I began to do that and I began to hear them, I began to understand that what they just said was not out of stupidity. It was because this is the angle they're looking at it from, because their personality says this is what, how they think. Girl, that was eye-opening, and it saved a lot of people's heads. I didn't chop off near as many heads after that. And that's pretty impressive, because I had body parts laying all around me walking through life. Because you were stupid, I'm just gonna, you did something stupid, I'm gonna shut your hand off. I'm gonna slice it off, slice your head, slice this, slice. I was slicing and dicing like I was making a salad. And I finally, when I got my hands on this book and I started reading it and understanding it, and understanding where they were talking from, it was a complete game changer. And it helped so much. And I would say start there, understand yourself. Yes, girl, I was a chef. You have no idea how right that comment was. As you start understanding that, your frustration with people will go way down, and your understanding of how you react will go way up. And then you can begin to modify and change thought processes inside yourself that will help you get a different result. And you will be able to accept people and who they are better. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's extremely relatable.
You can quit cutting people, girl. You can quit making people bleed.
And you know what? And also because, okay, so I don't want to keep like prolonging it, but someone said to me the other day, they was like, damn, they was like, cause it'll be just like somebody suggests something. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, that's really idiotic. And it was like, I mean, I was just saying, like, good God, like you made me feel like beneath the floor. And I was just like, oh my God, like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, that wasn't my intention, but I think I just have to be more aware of like my impact on others and more intentional with what I say and understand.
Well, it's understanding where they're coming from and that they're just speaking from a different personality. This book has cut down the amount of arguments with my husband, by 85%. Because my husband will have the same personality as me at times, where everyone's just living, we're living in a world full of stupid people. And at that point in time, I'm one of those stupid people. And when he's in that time, in that frame of mind, when he's in that compartment of his personality, when I realize that, and I'm in there cooking dinner, and he walks in, and I'm all ready to hug my husband and be sweet, and he walks by, and he, cuts in front of me and grabs something off the shelf, and it's right in front of my face and back. Girl, I want to jump into that. Everybody's, I live in a world full of stupid people, and I want to slice him in a heartbeat. And I realize he's so focused on a mission that he grabbed that and he did it. He didn't do it to piss me off. He did it because he was just trying to get something finished. And I was in the way, and he didn't mean it. I was in the way in a bad way. He just means I was in the way to get something accomplished. And I can see that now. And instead of getting offended and hurt, or instead of rising up and going, oh, you want to be like that, I can just let him finish.
Yeah.
And you're right there, because there's some times, girl, people will come back and do something, and you'd be like, let me tell you what's fixing to happen. And the finger comes out, and the eyes get big, and the head starts moving, and they better watch out, because heads are fixing to roll. But when you can step back from that and understand where they're coming from, you can give them some grace and give them some mercy.
That's what it is. Grace and mercy. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. Those are the words right there. Thank you.
Yeah. And you're so capable of doing it. If you read that book, you're welcome to holler at me and let me know what you score. I already know what you're going to score in, but holler and let me know, because if you score phlegmatic, I'm going to be shocked if you have any phlegmatic in you, because 0, girl, on the test. No one in our group had gotten a 0 in the Phlegmatic, except for this one right here. And I was like, well, that's stupid. Y'all are stupid if y'all roll over like that. And then like 6 months later, I was like, oh, that's why nobody ever wanted to talk to me. I was mean. So I hope that helps, girl.
That did. Thank you. I'm going to apply today.
And just an aside, Rhonda doesn't have her knives up on a shelf. just letting her know.
No.
They may not always be like in her hands, but she has them close if need be. Let me just.
They're close by. Those knives stay close by. We're learning how to put them away. We haven't learned how to put them away. We're learning how to put them away.
Sometimes they're used on me. Say that again. What? Say what again? But it's not the say that again. It's say that again. I dare you. Say that again. It's like, geez, I forgot what I said. No, you didn't. Say it again. And I love her for it. Laura, you got your hand up, girl.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Sean?
Good morning.
Can you guys hear me okay?
A little bit delayed, but go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I'm driving, so I'm gonna try my best. So I'm over here having like my heart is like going to different places. And I think I had like an aha moment, or I don't know what it was, but I know it was a moment. So I heard a lot about, moms and, the stories with moms and whatnot. So, and I heard kind of how they all related. So I wanted to, I guess, like make a comment and give you guys a different perspective on the mom topic. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, because I definitely connected a lot with Leo and what he was saying, and then with Rhonda, of course. So my story, and the only reason why I'm telling you guys this is because I want to give you like a different perspective, and then that resonated a lot with what you asked, Sean, what you asked Leo, when you said, what if the story was different? What if it was flipped, something like that? So I was like, I think that's my story. So for me, for example, I grew up in Colombia. Okay, my parents grew up in Colombia as well, and my mom especially, she had a really rough childhood. Okay, my grandma was very abusive. At some point, my grandma left my mom and all my uncles and my aunts by themselves when they were like 12. So they had a rough, I guess, childhood, and they were in Medellin, back in the day. So if you want to talk about rough. So I'm saying that because with me, because of everything that happened to my mom was very, she wasn't aggressive. She wasn't there with me, like telling me what to do. She gave me a lot of freedom, okay, since I was very young. And because of that, I don't blame her for anything that I've done. But I think that if she would have had more rules with me, maybe my story would have been different. So because, I had a lot of freedom since I was young. I started drinking since I was 12, okay? And, that, of course, stayed with me for some years after that. So now, and this was when I had my moment, I was like, okay, so what if, because of that freedom that I had, now, my issue right now is taking action. Like, I read a lot, I know a lot, but my thing is the lack of action. So now I'm thinking, while you guys were, talking about moms and, I wasn't able to do what I wanted and whatnot, then I'm like, well, I was able to do literally everything that I wanted, and that, you know, gave me a lot of, you know, problems. So now I'm thinking, well, what if, because I had a lot of freedom, now I'm afraid of making decisions, or I'm afraid of that freedom that I do have as an adult, and that's why I don't take action, especially when my heart tells me you need to do this, but I'm afraid of taking action. I'm afraid of making decisions. So I'm over here thinking like, oh crap, like, is this an aha moment? And then my thing is, okay, if this is a thing with me, how do I use that as a resource? How do I use that as my secret? What did you say? My secret sauce, I think you said, Sean. How do I use that to, you know, to do whatever I want to do? So that, I don't know, that was a lot. And there's like a lot under that, but I just had a moment and I was like going crazy.
We just got to see the index of the book. We didn't even see the chapters and titles. We saw a lot there. There's lots of ways to work with that, freedom, and to use that as a launching point for decision making, because the decisions that you made gave you your freedom. Now, how do you make the decisions from a state of mindset of freedom versus a mindset of being stuck? That's where that starts to come in, because you're trying to make the decisions that other people are making, but they're making it from a place of stuckness where you've got this idea of freedom that they can't even begin to comprehend. So therefore, you think you've got to make decisions like them, use a process like them, and you can't. So becoming more aware of your freedom, I would journal, what are the decisions that you make that have created a freedom? And then why does it look like it might be a trap? And ask yourself those questions. Who told you that this freedom is odd or different? And be aware of that, because when you start to look at where the limitations on your freedom come in, it's always going to be from an outside source. And then figure out, how does that outside source continue to influence you, and then what can you change with that? Which, that's a lot, but that's something that I would start with from that point. And we can have a conversation on that. Maybe that'll be the topic tomorrow. Since all of those things that came up today, maybe we'll touch on those topics tomorrow. You know, strong people of influence. How do we reduce their influence? Well, it's not that we can reduce it. It's how do we change the story? How do we do a Wayne Dyer on it? Dr. Wayne Dyer, change the way we look at it, so the things we look at change. Y'all are awesome.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Well, y'all, pretty powerful day. 2-hour call. 14 of you still here. 15 of you still here. You diehards. I love you all. So with that being said, wow. Pretty amazing focus. It's a lifetime conversation. I appreciate y'all. Tell each other you love each other. I'm Sean Murphy, founder of Mental Profits. I'll see y'all where? At the next event.
Love y'all. Bye. Have a wonderful day.
Love y'all too. Everybody have a blessed day.